Thanks for being on the show today, Tom and Lisa.
Thanks for having us, man.
Thank you so much for being on, Lisa.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So let's get right into it. A lot of people have seen, obviously, what you guys have recently built with Impact Theory. Obviously, you guys co-founded Quest Nutrition. But let's go back to the very beginning. I know we touched on in the last interview where you guys met, but let's give the audience some context. Where did you guys meet and where did this love story all begin?
Baby.
No, you kick it off. I'll chime in.
So I was teaching film, and it was a school for adults. I always feel compelled to mention that. She was one of my students, and that was, the beginning of everything. This was back in 2000, was when we met, and just hit it off. She was here in America, and I thought, this is wonderful. She is legally obligated to leave the country, so I can have a nice little fling romance, and she'll be leaving, and all will come back to normal. And I did not anticipate falling head over heels in love and changing the entire course of my life.
Wow.
But that was how we met.
And he left out the part that he ignored me for a month and a half.
Yes.
When I first started.
That's just good strategy, though.
It was great strategy. It made me interested.
A little hard to get?
Yeah, he really was.
It's not even hard to get. And this is actually, I had to learn this. I had no game with women whatsoever in my teens and early 20s.
So you weren't a ladies' man at all?
Not in the slightest. And she literally thought that I was like this big player, and little did she know, not at all the case. But I had finally gotten really frustrated in my early 20s with not being able to get the response from women that I wanted. And so I just said, okay, like anything, this is learnable. So I went to somebody that had the best luck with women, and I said, all right, dude, what's your strategy? What are you doing? And he was like, oh, Tom, let me tell you, just be an asshole. And I was like, there's no way. This is so stupid. There's no way that's true.
Right.
But I had heard that so many times that I was like, while the words they're using clearly are fundamentally false, what are they really trying to get at? And I realized the thing that they were shorthanding as be an asshole was that to not care whether you win or lose. And so you're completely yourself, and you lead with confidence, and you're not trying to win them over. You're just being you. And so I thought, okay, I'm almost certain that's what they mean. So I'm going to stop trying to impress anybody. I'm going to stop trying to get the girl. And I'm literally just going to be aggressively myself. I'm going to be who I am. And when I'm feeling weird and quirky, I'm going to be weird and quirky. When I have something that is shocking to say, but I really believe it, I'm going to say it. I'm not going to shock for the sake of shock. But I'm just going to stop trying to be cool or fit a mold. And dude, that shit worked like a charm. And so getting to that level of being nonchalant, leading with confidence, not chasing, it reads as ignoring. I wasn't actively ignoring her. I just wasn't making any overtures. I wasn't pursuing her.
But you were interested a little bit. You were interested.
I thought she was attractive. I didn't know her enough to be interested. And so I'm not a guy that just ever in my life just tried to go out and get laid.
Right.
So it was like, I always, even if I was going to have something that, was a one-night engagement, I needed to connect. There needed to be something there for me. So yes, there was no question. She is literally my type from just top to bottom. So she had caught my eye in that way, but I didn't know her enough to be like, oh, I would want to pursue it anyway. But as I got to know her, it literally happened the moment I was like, you know what, she actually is pretty interesting. That very day was when I made my move. So, yeah.
How about you, Lisa? What was your first impression of Tom?
Yeah, I'd come to America, I'd studied film in England, didn't feel like I had enough practical experience, so I found this one course in Los Angeles, and it was 8 weeks intense, and I thought, this is going to be so much fun. Day one, I walk in, and he's standing there, and he had the posture of just a confident man, which of course very much attracted me to him. And then he pretty much ignored me, which absolutely worked.
Mm-hmm. As a teacher, you mean?
He would teach me, but he never went beyond that. But there was something,
Gotcha.
I don't know, he was cocky enough to get my attention, but yet reserved enough to make me curious. And then he showed his movie to our class. And after that, I was, wow, this guy's very talented. And I realized that I'm very drawn to talented people. So I was even more interested, and he ignored me even more. And then when he asked me out on a date, he had no preconceived notions of what that date would be like. And I'm thinking this is going to be a fun summer fling, not realizing he's thinking the same thing.
Right.
He's a teacher. It'll be great when I'm 90. I can tell my grandkids that grandma was once pretty cool because she had a fling with an American dude, and when she was in her 20s. And so we went on that first date when neither of us pretended. And usually on the first date, you pretend. It's your best version of yourself for that one period of time. And I'm just myself because I'm not thinking it's going anywhere. He's just himself because he thinks it's not going anywhere. And that first night, we stayed up till 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, just talking. And
Sadly, just talking.
yes, he tried to make his moves. But we just
He was just trying to
along.
make an impact.
Exactly, we just got along so well. And my first impression was, this guy doesn't BS. Like, he was so honest, and I'd never been on a date ever in my life up until that point where I had someone be that truthful and that honest, because he was saying things that could have ended the date there and then. And I found that curious, and it was so refreshing. And so here was a guy who was super confident, super honest, and yet an utter gentleman. He was the first guy that ever held the door open for me.
I still can't believe that's true. That's so crazy.
And he still opens the door now for me.
Nice.
But it was one of those, like, this is so weird. I'm thinking this guy's like really cocky and has like this super like fancy car with, the stereo system that's blasting and bass, because that's kind of, to be honest, what I was used to.
Right.
And attracted to.
And attracted to, absolutely. And so this first day, I think he's that type of guy, and we walk over to his big Buick. And the door's not really working, and his back seat's full of junk.
So at this time, Tom, you're pretty broke?
Oh, yes.
Oh, he took me to a B restaurant in a strip mall, just to give you an idea. That was our first
And
date.
if I had known that was gonna, because for years and years and years, every anniversary of our first date, we'd go relive that night. We'd go back to the restaurant, eat at the restaurant. We'd go, because our date was actually at the DGA, so we'd go to the DGA, and then we would actually go walk by the apartment that I was living in at the time, and just like do this whole thing. And I thought, we've made this like big moment out of this divey restaurant with like huge tears in like the furniture.
And it's still a B restaurant, probably.
Well, unfortunately, it went out of business, so it ended up getting taken over. I don't know what the rating is now, but so I mean, it's just hysterical.
How did you ask her out that first night? You just went up to her that first time when it all
The
clicked?
first like overture I made to her was, "Sit your ass down. Where do you think you're going?"
I was wondering if you'd,
No way, really?
Yeah.
So you were just that forward with her?
And keep in mind, it was fun and funny and appropriate. It was like we had a rapport, certainly a student teacher, and so she was like, most of her class was done. We were on set shooting. Most of her class was done, so a bunch of them were going to leave, but some of them weren't. And so she was like, "Oh, all right, we're all taking off." And I was like, "Sit your ass down. Where do you think you're going?" And so she just sat down, and I was like, "Oh."
And I normally play hard to get, but after a month and a half, I was so shocked that he said, I just went, "Okay," and sat down. I was like, "Lisa, you don't just say okay. You've got to play hard to get."
She was almost like a militant feminist at the time. Like, I was so shocked. I was like, "Whoa, I can't believe like how well this stuff works." So it was, it was really, really interesting to have like at a moment of great change for both of us, where I was trying to, step into my confidence and really own who I am and own my personality. And, she was already like really owned herself and was very confident. And so for us to meet at that level where she was really opening herself up to being an artist, and like, I don't know, it's just a really cool like moment of change for us both. And so I think it's why we both had such open minds to, when we met, it was like this cool collision of ideas. I'd never met a woman like her. I'd never met somebody that was so self-assured and confident, like aggressively so. And so, it was just really, really interesting.
Nice. And then how old were you guys at the time?
Young as hell, and I do not advise that people get together as young as we did, but
21.
Man, it worked out. She was 21, and I was not 25. That's all I know, is I was not 25. So there's this whole thing. She was like going to tell her dad, like I'm like really freaking out to tell my dad that I'm dating this guy that's 25, and I was like, whoa, I never told you I was 25. And she was like, "What do you mean?"
So now I'm thinking, oh my God, he's 30. My dad's going to kill me that I'm dating such an older man.
Right.
I was 24.
Gotcha.
So that's the joke. He was like, I was not 25. I was like, what do you mean? Oh God. He's like, I'm 24. I was like, you bastard.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I can
Very
swear.
young.
And then, so you were actually her teacher, not just in the school. You were actually the teacher of her
Actually,
class.
her teacher, yeah.
Wow. Okay, and then how do you guys go from that first date to like, okay, this is a relationship where, you know, a long-term thing? I mean, how does that transition
let's
happen?
get really weird. So, and you can shut this down or edit it however you want.
Yeah.
But the truth is, I really wanted to sleep with her that first night, and she
Okay.
was like having none of it.
Appreciate the honesty.
And
But,
so,
but when we were at dinner, having, you know, prior to this, he's like, I'm not the guy that just wants to get laid on the first night. So then when he makes a move, I'm like, you're full of shit, which I pretty much told him.
but the thing was really like at the beginning of the night, I didn't know her that well. There wasn't that connection. I wasn't on my mind. I'd never played, romance like that. But that, I mean, look, it obviously worked out where we get married. So when I say it was the most electric moment of my life, like I had never met somebody like her. And going from seeing her as a student to seeing who she was really like as a woman was like so cool. And so I'm literally like jaw on the floor the whole dinner. I'm like, man, this chick is so intriguing. And she was just more interesting than anyone I'd ever met. And so as the night goes on, I was like, whoa, like I'm really into this chick. And now I have that connection. I'm definitely going for the close. And she shot it down and was like not having it. But not in like then it created an awkward moment. It wasn't awkward at all. We had such a phenomenal conversation that we just slipped back into that. And it was wonderful. And so, but looking back, there is something to like that. There was the real want to see her again, partly because there was nothing cemented. There was still that hanging sexual question in the air. And so we went back out on, I mean, literally from that first date, I've never looked back, never looked sideways, nothing. It was just always her. Not that I was love at first sight. I was not in love with her at that moment. I was just way, way, way intrigued. And so when I was dropping her off, she loves this story. When I was dropping her off, I was done playing cool. I was like, dude, you're so interesting. Like, let's keep this going. So I was like, when am I going to see you again?
Yeah.
She's like, oh, maybe 3 or 4 days. And I was like,
I'll call you.
Yeah, I'll let you know, yeah.
Well, because he'd played cool for so long, I thought, well, Lisa, you can't show that you're too keen,
Right.
even though our first date was kind of based on the truth, which is weird that we still then played the game afterwards. Actually, just
look, there is a game to be played in no uncertain term for everybody. And understanding like, how do you influence people? How do you have an impact on people? It isn't just being aggressively yourself. It's being aggressively yourself in a context.
Right.
Like, I'm not the same way in a board meeting that I'm going to be on a first date, right?
Right.
And nor would anyone expect me to. And it'd be fucking weird if I did it, right?
Right, yeah.
So I was myself in the context of a first date. And so, you have to put it that way. So, but realizing, at least for me, that the rules of the game had changed very rapidly in that I no longer felt like I was going for a second date. It felt like I've connected with you in a way I've literally never connected with another human being in my life. To give you an idea, so we met when I was 24. I had never told anyone ever, other than like my immediate family, that I loved them, ever. So she is my first and only serious relationship.
Wow.
So it's like, I was always like, I'm never getting married. Like, it's not my thing. I don't need to be with people. I don't have like that pull that some people have where they have to be in a relationship. I have never had that. I don't have an addictive personality. I'm very fine by myself. So for me, it was like, whoa, like everything just changed. And the easiest way to encapsulate that is 8 months later, not then, because I want to be very clear about this was not love at first sight, but 8 months later, I realized, oh, I'm either never getting married, which is a very real possibility, or I'm marrying her. But it isn't like, oh, well, I've always known I wanted to get married. So it was either I'm never getting married or I'm marrying her, simple as.
If you guys enjoyed that video, be sure to hit that subscribe button right now, because every week we bring you the very best in personal development content, interviews, and insight to help inspire you to take your life and your dreams and make them a reality. And also, if you want to know how to book dream guests the same way I have, you can check the link below for my top 3 secrets. So if you have a podcast or a show or whatever it is and you want to collaborate with them, if you click that link below, I'll give you those top 3 secrets to help you get in touch with anybody. And also, don't forget that The Passionate Few is available on media platforms as well. So you can subscribe to the podcast. And until next time, thank you for being one of the Passionate Few.